Hi, I'm Leanne Barron. I'm a GP and I'd just like to talk to you about the medical aspects of eating disorders. As you're probably aware, they're highly complex conditions. So what I'd like to talk to you about is the medical parts of their management. Now, I'd like to begin by discussing what happens to the body under conditions of starvation. The factors that lead to eating disorders are different in every person, but ultimately the body tries to cope in a state with decreased nutrients and goes into a hibernation state, trying to maintain the heart, the kidneys and the ovaries. So basically the body has to cut down other aspects of its metabolism in order to protect those. Now, when trying to beat an eating disorder, if you don't address these factors, it's very hard to physically recover. That's what's very frustrating in the treatment, because often it appears that the person isn't trying to recover, but in fact it's because their body is working against them. The two glands most involved are the thyroid, which is an organ in the neck that controls your metabolism. Now, what happens in an eating disorder? Normally the body takes iodine, turns it into a hormone called thyroxine, or T4, and then that's activated into another hormone called T3. Now, the body's very clever, so that if the body's under stress, it actually makes a mirror image of the T3, which triggers hibernation responses. Now, in fighting the eating disorder, you actually have this mirror image T3. What we have to do is channel the T4, the thyroid hormone, into T3 instead, and that requires zinc and selenium. So obviously foods that contain those nutrients are going to help the body to go back to its normal pathway. Foods containing zinc are things like oysters, pumpkin seeds and nuts. And selenium is also in nuts, or you can buy potatoes that are grown in selenium-rich soil. It's a trace element, you only need a small amount of it. The next gland that's involved is the adrenal. That's a little gland that sits on the kidney and is actually the organ that produces the hormones needed to fight stress. So when the body's been under stress, it's needed to produce a lot of cortisol. And often what happens is that the adrenal gland can't keep up. What the body has to do then is actually work harder, and the gland sometimes can't manage to keep doing that. The lack of cortisol is actually what leads to the most medically threatening aspects of the eating disorder, because cortisol is the hormone that keeps the blood pressure, the pulse and the temperature at normal levels. Now, you'll notice that these are actually the most life-threatening aspects of the disorder, and I'll just mention at this point that these are the conditions that put people in hospital. If your temperature is under 35.5, or if your pulse is under 40 beats per minute, this is a medically life-threatening emergency, and you should actually go to the nearest hospital emergency department. Now, the adrenal gland, when it's trying to produce more cortisol, actually has to transition some of its other cells that make other hormones into cortisol-producing cells. So people with an eating disorder might start craving salt because they don't have enough of the aldosterone, the hormone that actually protects salt. The hibernation process in the adrenal and the thyroid is like a bear that's gone into hibernation, and it's a metabolic condition, and it actually takes all these nutrients to transfer the metabolism back to normal. That's why bears, when they hibernate, when they wake up, they have to eat blueberries and nuts. That's actually what turns around their metabolism. And they're the same foods that help people recover from eating disorders. In addition, licorice can be very useful, or licorice root tea, because it helps reduce the breakdown of cortisol. The other things the adrenal gland likes are actually warmth, so some time in the sun is good. Wearing thermal underwear is good, and perhaps even a sheepskin underlay on the bed to try to improve the temperature, because temperature is actually a very good indication of the body's healthy functioning. Normal temperature is from 36.5 to 37 degrees, and that should be a goal of treatment. It's unlikely, if the temperature is lower than that the ovaries will be able to come out of hibernation. And that should be a goal of treatment, because whilst the person's in this hibernation state, all the eggs in the ovary are dormant. And if the person doesn't recover from the eating disorder while those eggs are still viable, they won't be able to be fertile later in life. So we really want to recover from the eating disorder and let the ovaries, the rest of the body, come out of hibernation.